The representation and discussion of mental health and mental illness is an emerging discourse within our media landscape, but is something much less obviously discussed within the field of animation, when looking at both Walt Disney Studios and Studio Ghibli's take on discussing the topic of mental illness. The studios have similarities in that they are both groundbreaking in the world of animation in the East and the Western world. There are many differences in their take on how they encode mental health into their films. The two studios' approach to mental health may appear quite similar at first, but arguably, Ghibli showcases a variety of mental health conditions within its library of films, despite the stigma mental illness faces in Japan. The argument here is that perhaps Studio Ghibli is trying to break the stigma and introduce a somewhat subconscious discussion of mental health issues within their creations as a way to allow for young audiences to relate and not feel alone in their struggles. Just like many of the cultural themes of Ghibli films, this means that there are some attitudes towards the content of these films that are representative of the cultural experience in Japan. But also because mental health is often depicted in more physical and gruesome ways for the screen, as this is more accepted. Psychosocial factors, including weakness of personality, are often considered the cause of mental illness rather than the biological factors. One standout film in the Studio Ghibli universe is When Marnie Was There. The 2014 feature encompasses complex characters within a narrative untouched by many filmmakers. It deals with emotional loss projected through the anxious 12-year-old Anna, some of whose first words of dialogue are,
"I hate myself."
Throughout the film, we see Anna become plagued with anxiety and spinning thoughts of self-deprecation. Anna is painfully quiet and struggles with socialization with people her own age. Anna also happens to suffer from asthma, and when her anxiety is heightened, often an asthma attack ensues. There is a parallel here that a physical health issue such as asthma is more widely accepted and understood by the community than a mental health condition such as anxiety. When Anna is sent away to stay with her foster mum's relatives in the countryside, it is under the pretense that she is there to be surrounded by clean air to help with her asthma.
The air is very clean where they live. The doctor says it'll help your condition to spend a bit of time in a place like that. Be a good girl, eat well, and you come back nice and happy, okay?
So, I hear you have asthma.
Yes.
Air around here is sweet. Fix you up in no time.
Anna's anxiety and depression manifests in both detachment and anger.
Leave me alone already. Huh? You fat pig.
Anna has isolated from her friends back home. She struggles to just relax when she's sent to stay with relatives in the countryside. They feed her well and accommodate her needs, but underneath, Anna can't help but feel like she doesn't deserve this and is awkward around them. It is when Anna spots a large swooping mansion that she begins to look optimistically at the world. Anna soon investigates the mansion and stumbles across a young blonde girl, Marnie. The two soon become close friends and bond over their shared parental issues. Marnie's extroverted nature complements Anna's introvertedness perfectly, bringing the shy girl out of her shell and finally giving her a purpose. Anna, however, soon becomes reliant on Marnie and depends on her for any light and purpose in her life. When Anna is with Marnie, she feels normal, something she has wanted to feel for as long as she can remember. Anna's dependence on Marnie is symbolic to the notion of having a favourite person. The favourite person is an interpersonal relationship most commonly associated to those who live with borderline personality disorder and involves an individual's attachment to a singular person. This person may become the source of all happiness and validation. The individual with BPD wants their favourite person's attention as much as possible, and the quality of the relationship can undoubtedly shape their mood, confidence, and sense of security. Unfortunately, if that person is busy, or if conflict emerges, anger and the fear of abandonment often become triggered, and they can act on irrational thoughts and behaviours. In Anna's situation, the more time she spends with Marnie, the happier she appears to become. But when Anna is not with Marnie and has not heard from the other girl in a while, she becomes depressed, withdrawn, paranoid and anxious again. It is difficult for Anna to vocalise her feelings, just as it is for many people who live with mental health issues. Throughout the film, we learn of the trauma Anna has gone through as a child who has been orphaned and has spent time in the foster care system. Anna's grief from losing her parents is strong and potentially the cause for her feelings of abandonment. She cannot forgive her parents for dying and leaving her behind. Children's film has been the focus of various studies regarding how they portray and describe characters, because of the view that there are possible implications for children's exposure to these characterizations. According to Will's 2017, cartoons offer a childlike view of the world that helps influence how children navigate their own experiences. Whilst there has been discussion of mental health issues within the Walt Disney universe, studies have shown that in some features, the terms used to refer to those with a mental illness or impairment are often derogatory. Children's exposure to TV and movies influences attitudes towards a wide range of social groups, that is, the elderly, persons with a disability, and persons with obesity. Therefore, repeated exposure to depictions of mental illness in movies likely influences children's attitudes towards a person with mental illness in real life. Thus, children may learn labels referring to those with a mental illness, such as
Everyone knows her father's a lunatic.
She is my sister. She's a little crazy.
Keep going! He's crazy!
He's crazy.
Who let this lunatic in here?
potentially acquiring the negative connotations and stereotypes associated with such labels, for example, inferiority or that they are dangerous. In Lilo and Stitch, sisters Lilo and Nani have been orphaned due to their parents dying in a car crash, and Nani has become Lilo's legal guardian at only 19 years old. Nani has to take up many responsibilities, including finding a suitable job to keep a steady income and pay bills, whilst also looking after her little sister and dealing with her own grief. We see Nani as a strong and capable older sister, depicted not only in her personality and her actions, but also in her exterior physique. Lilo, however, is more psychologically scarred by the tragic death of her parents.
Leave me alone to die.
Lilo's imagination has clearly always been vivid, but her ability to escape into fantasies in her mind and seeing them as a reality can be seen as her way of dealing with the trauma she has experienced in her short life. Many movie bloggers have speculated that Lilo perhaps has a form of PTSD as a consequence of becoming an abandoned child due to both her parents' sudden deaths. Behaviours that Lilo exhibits indicating that she has psychological issues as a result of her abandonment issues include Lilo's determination to feed a fish called Pudge a peanut butter sandwich despite it causing her to be late for her dance recital. When questioned about this, she defends herself, stating,
Sandwich day. Every Thursday I take Pudge the fish a peanut butter sandwich.
Pudge is a fish.
And today we are out of peanut butter.
She is convinced Pudge can control the weather and bad things will happen if she doesn't bring him a peanut butter sandwich every week. In the study of psychology, this can be seen as a form of magical thinking, a common trait in those who experience OCD, where a superstition or thought can manifest as a fixation on a belief that one's thoughts, actions, words, or wishes can alter the course of events in the physical world.
Pudge controls the weather.
Later in the film, the audience learns that Lilo's parents died in a car accident which occurred during a nasty storm.
It was rainy and they went for a drive.
This can feed into Lilo's belief that if she is able to provide Pudge with his peanut butter sandwich each week, that the weather will stay nice and therefore no more bad things will happen, because she associates bad weather with the abandonment and trauma of her parents' death. Lilo is also seen to have outbursts of intense rage and anger, which is common in people who suffer from psychological conditions like PTSD. This can first be seen in the scene when one of Lilo's dance classmates makes a nasty comment to her.
You're crazy.
This is the beginning of when we see Lilo struggle to form friendships with other children and the beginning of her tendency to react impulsively to triggers. In Nani's attempt to help Lilo form a connection, she takes her to a local animal shelter to adopt a dog. Lilo ends up picking out Stitch.
Hi.
Oh, how?
Wow.
Who is quite clearly not a dog and is in fact an escaped genetic experiment from outer space. Lilo is insistent on keeping him and soon forms a strong emotional attachment to him. It appears that Lilo is the only one who cannot see that Stitch is not a dog, and she sees him as part of the family. When Nani tries to return Stitch to the shelter, Lilo insists that he is family now, and this is where the famous line,
Ohana means family. Family means
Nobody gets left behind.
comes from. Lilo blames herself when things are progressively getting worse with Stitch's behaviour, and he opts to try and run away in order to save Lilo and Nani's family from being torn apart. Lilo does not try and stop him and blames herself, saying that,
I'll remember you though. I remember everyone that leaves.
people who suffer from abandonment issues can get better, and this is what we see happen in the movie's conclusion. Lilo and Stitch focuses on both these characters suffering through their issues and making some poor decisions as a result of their trauma. These issues, combined with Nani's inability to hold down a job and almost losing custody of Lilo, hammers in how traumatic losing a loved one can be. That's why it's only at the end of the movie, after Lilo and Nani both learn that Stitch is an alien and recognise how much they both need him and each other, does it seem as though there's any hope that Lilo will get better.